Good day. Uh, Today I'm going to be discussing chapter 1, our first chapter for React, which is our introduction. And Ronnie is navigating my session today. Alright, cool. Let's jump into it. So, what is React, right? So, React is basically a framework or a JavaScript library that helps you build single page applications. So that's what React does. It helps with building single page applications. It uses a virtual DOM and also uses JSX, JavaScript, XML, similar to HTML. So for our front end, it also uses asynchronous operations as well in our code. You can create components, so functional components with React. It has its own UI, logic, and data. And basically, what we did is, firstly, we ran this command npx create react app my app. What this does is it creates a brand new React application, right? So that there's specific files and settings, right? In order for us to start coding. Then, after running it, there's specific files, such as our HTML, CSS. So let's jump into the code and see where that is. So when we run that command, then we get my app, which is the application, and the specific files that we need, right, for our application to run, basically. So let's jump into app.js. So over here, this is basically where we create our component, right? So component is basically like reusable code. So code that we can reuse, which will be rendered to the front end, because we have JSX within it. So this basically defines what to show in the front end. So firstly, we import the logo over here, and then in this case we import our CSS for our application. Then we create this function, which is our component app, and we are gonna return this specific div. In this div there's HTML or JSX, right, code. As you can see, we're using this class name for our CSS styling. Because we imported the logo that we want in our single page application, we use that as well. We have a paragraph as well as a button with a link. And then here, export default app basically allows the application, or let me say the app function or the app component, to be accessible to other files or other modules, such as index.js. So yeah, mainly here is creating this component over here. Then in index.js, right, this basically is mainly for rendering specifically this app component and its content to the front end. But firstly, we import React, we import our CSS. Then because we want to render all of this, right, we have to import that app component over here. Then in this variable, we basically have a get element by ID to use the root ID in order to inject our HTML or JSX in that div, which is what I'm going to show now. Then over here, this is where we do our rendering. So this tells React to render the app components, which is here. So we're gonna render it by using the render function, basically. But how that happens basically is in our index.html, in our public directory here, we access, because we use the get element by ID, we access this ID root, and basically this div is basically going to contain all of this content now, right? Because we use that render function to render it to this div by accessing this ID root. And then it shows the single page application in the front end. So this is basically how it looks. So you can see the logo there, then the message, as well as the link over here, and the CSS styling that was used basically here in app.css, and we imported all of those files over here. So yeah, that's basically a summary of chapter 1 for React. Ronnie, is there anything you want to add?
Nothing.
All right, cool.